Imagine walking through the bustling streets of ancient Rome 2,000 years ago. The sun is warm on your shoulders. The stone streets echo with the clatter of sandals and wheels, and the air is filled with the mixed scents of bread baking, roasting meat, and fresh vegetables. People in flowing togas hurry past, carrying baskets, discussing news from the forum, or gossiping about the latest political decisions. In the midst of this busy urban life, many Romans did not prepare all of their meals at home. Instead, they turned to establishments known as thermopolia, which functioned as the city's version of fast food. The word thermopolium comes from Greek roots meaning a place where something hot is sold, and it describes a counter or shop where ready-to-eat hot food was available to purchase quickly. These shops were widespread in cities like Pompeii, Herculaneum, and Ostia, situated near markets, crossroads, and public squares, places where people could stop briefly on their way to work, the baths, or social appointments. Archaeological evidence reveals that many thermopolia were small rooms, sometimes no larger than a few meters across, with L-shaped stone counters that contained embedded dolia, large jars or pots, which held a variety of foods. The counters often faced the street, so that passers-by could see the dishes and place their orders without entering the shop, much like modern takeaway windows. Behind the counter, the proprietor, known as a capo, would serve food from these dolia, sometimes using tongs or ladles, and occasionally offer small clay cups of wine to accompany the meal. Unlike wealthy Romans, who could afford a private kitchen staffed with slaves to prepare elaborate meals, the urban poor and even many middle-class citizens relied on thermopolia for quick sustenance. Meals in these establishments were practical rather than luxurious, and the menu varied according to location, season, and the preferences of the proprietor. Common dishes included stews with lentils, chickpeas, or beans, often flavored with herbs, olive oil, and garum, the fermented fish sauce that was ubiquitous in Roman cuisine. Meat was available for those who could afford it, sometimes slices of pork, chicken, or even small cuts of beef, often cooked slowly in the dolia so that it could be served hot throughout the day. Fish and seafood were also common in coastal cities, with small portions of salted or fresh fish prepared for immediate consumption. Bread and flatbreads were served alongside these dishes, sometimes dipped in sauces or used as a vessel for scooping up stews. The practicality of thermopolia reflected the rhythm of Roman city life. In a city where many homes lacked kitchens or space for cooking, particularly in the dense apartment buildings known as insulae, a hot meal available on the street was a necessity. Archaeologists have found evidence of thermopolia with sophisticated setups. Some counters contained built-in heating systems, likely using charcoal or hot coals beneath the pots to keep food warm for hours. Some shops displayed decorative frescoes depicting food, animals, or mythological scenes, creating an inviting atmosphere for customers. In Pompeii, for example, several thermopolia feature painted images of ducks, fish, or other foods above the counters, which may have served as both decoration and advertisement, signaling what was available that day. The social function of thermopolia was also significant. These establishments were not merely places to eat. They were hubs of interaction where people could meet neighbors, discuss business, or exchange news. Unlike private dining rooms, thermopolia were open to anyone who could pay for a meal, creating a shared space that was democratic in its accessibility. The counters, often positioned at street level, allowed for quick service and easy conversation between the capo and customers. In addition, the presence of small stools or standing areas meant that patrons could pause for a moment, eat, and then continue with their day. The variety of food also reflected the cosmopolitan nature of Roman cities. Ingredients came from across the empire: olives from Spain, fish sauce from Gaul, grains from North Africa, and spices from the eastern provinces. This diversity of ingredients allowed even a small thermopolium to offer a range of flavors that would be recognizable to Roman palates and appealing to a wide clientele. Despite their practicality, thermopolia were not without regulation or social attention. Magistrates sometimes oversaw the cleanliness of the counters and the storage of food, ensuring that public health standards were maintained to the extent known at the time. Laws and inscriptions also indicate that proprietors could be fined for adulterating food or overcharging customers, showing that the state recognized the importance of these establishments in daily urban life. Furthermore, thermopolia contributed to the economy beyond simple food sales. They provided employment for cooks, servers, and laborers, as well as a market for suppliers of olive oil, wine, vegetables, and meats. In this way, thermopolia were integrated into the broader economic network of the city, linking production, transport, and consumption in a continuous cycle. In summary, thermopolia in ancient Rome were not only functional spaces providing quick meals for busy citizens, but also social, economic, and cultural hubs. They illustrate the practical ingenuity of Roman urban planning, the diversity of diet across classes, and the ways in which communal eating contributed to the rhythm of daily life. These establishments reveal that even in antiquity, the concept of convenient, ready-to-eat food was highly valued and deeply woven into the fabric of city life, offering a fascinating glimpse into the everyday experiences of ordinary Romans. As we continue our journey through the streets of ancient Rome, let us pause to imagine the smells and tastes of a thermopolium, where hot food was always ready for those in need of a quick meal. Picture the counter again, long and low, with its embedded dolia holding savory stews, thick porridges, and fragrant sauces. Each pot contained a different preparation, and the selection changed daily according to the season, the availability of ingredients, and the whims of the owner. One could find a pot of pulse, a type of porridge made from farro or other grains, often enriched with olive oil, herbs, and occasionally cheese. This was a staple, nourishing and filling, suitable for laborers or travelers who required energy for the rest of the day. In another golium, there might be a stew of lentils, chickpeas, or beans, simmered slowly to develop flavor and warmth. These were not only cheap, but also nutritionally valuable, providing protein and sustenance for those who could not afford meat every day. Meat itself was available to those with more resources. Pieces of pork, beef, or chicken were often cooked in seasoned sauces, sometimes with vegetables or small amounts of wine, creating a rich and hearty dish. Fish, particularly in coastal cities or near rivers, was also common, salted or fresh, and sometimes combined with herbs and olive oil. What is remarkable is how these ingredients reflected the trade networks of the Roman Empire. Olives and olive oil arrived from Spain and North Africa. Spices such as cumin or coriander came from the eastern provinces. Grains were transported from fertile lands across the Mediterranean. In every thermopolium, the ingredients told a story of connection, commerce, and cultural exchange. Drinks were also an essential part of the thermopolium experience. Wine was offered in small clay cups, diluted with water as was customary, providing refreshment for the weary. Occasionally, hot drinks, sometimes flavored with honey or herbs, were available, enhancing the sense of comfort and nourishment. The layout of thermopolia encouraged quick but social eating. Customers often stood at the counter or perched on small stools, sharing brief conversations with their neighbors or the proprietor. Inscriptions and frescoes discovered in these establishments suggest that humor, greetings, and daily chatter were common, making each visit not only a practical stop for food, but also a moment of human connection. The visual presentation of the thermopolium played an important role as well. Bright frescoes and painted signs indicated what dishes were available, sometimes depicting ducks, fish, or baskets of fruit, signaling freshness and quality. The imagery also added an aesthetic appeal, inviting passers-by to pause in their busy day. For many residents of Rome, particularly those living in insula or apartment blocks, thermopolia were indispensable. These buildings often lacked private kitchens, so the ability to access prepared hot meals nearby was essential. Even wealthier citizens might stop by for a quick snack while traveling between public baths, forums, or theaters. The prevalence of thermopolia reflects not only dietary needs, but also the pace of urban life, where efficiency, convenience, and accessibility were vital. In addition to the culinary and social functions, thermopolia were economically significant. They employed cooks, servers, and porters, while also supporting suppliers of grains, meats, vegetables, and wine. This created a network of production and trade, where the simple act of preparing a meal connected local and distant communities across the empire. Archaeological excavations provide tangible evidence of these interactions. In Pompeii, thermopolia counters with dolia still in place, utensils, and storage jars have been found, allowing historians to reconstruct the operations of these shops in remarkable detail. Carbonized food remnants, inscriptions, and even graffiti reveal the daily rhythm of preparation, service, and consumption. Despite being common and accessible, thermopolia were not left unchecked. Municipal authorities imposed regulations to ensure cleanliness, fair pricing, and safe handling of food. Some inscriptions record fines or penalties for owners who violated these standards, demonstrating that even in antiquity, the balance between profit and public health was a concern. Considering all these aspects, the layout, the food, the social interactions, the economic connections, and the regulatory oversight, we begin to see the thermopolium as more than just a place to grab a quick meal. It was a microcosm of Roman urban life, reflecting the empire's ingenuity, commerce, and communal values. These small shops embodied practicality, connecting food production to consumption and integrating nourishment into the broader patterns of daily existence. As our exploration draws to a close, we can imagine walking away from a thermopolium, the warmth of a freshly served meal still lingering, the sounds of conversation fading into the streets, and the city continuing its rhythm around us. We can picture the daily lives of Romans, from laborers and merchants to officials and travelers, all participating in this shared culinary culture. In this way, the simple act of buying a hot meal in a thermopolium was intertwined with social interaction, economic systems, and the vibrant energy of city life. It reminds us that even in the distant past, convenience, community, and the joy of food were central to human experience. And so as we leave the bustling counters behind and imagine the streets quieting at sunset, we can reflect on the ingenuity of the Romans, the flavors they cherished, and the small, ordinary places that reveal so much about life long ago. The story of the thermopolium is, in essence, a story of connection between people, between cities, and across the empire. And just as we have walked these streets in our minds, tasting the simple but nourishing foods, we can carry with us an understanding of how ordinary routines, meals, and small establishments shaped the rhythm of Roman life. In the quiet of the evening, it is comforting to remember that centuries ago, people too paused for warmth, for nourishment, and for a moment of shared experience, reminding us that across time, the basic pleasures of food, conversation, and community remain constant. And so our journey through the thermopolia ends gently, leaving behind the sounds, smells, and energy of ancient Rome as we step back into the calm of our own time, carrying the story of a city where even the simplest meals tell a tale of culture, ingenuity, and everyday life.